And post. Alright, one video down. I guess I need to start working on another one, don't I? Hold on. Well, that does look like fun. I do enjoy a good game of Halo. Maybe just a few days for break won't hurt my productivity. Alright, yep, that was a good game. I enjoyed that. Needs a little bit of work, but it's fine. I do need to get back to my script, though. Huh. So sometimes inspiration hits you like a brick, and boy, my head shattered when the local Twitter PDF file defender, Vito Gastalti himself, decided to try and make fun of people who believe in fairies online a few months back. Now, while his tweet decrying those who believe in the Fae folk has since been deleted, I remember Vito. I'll always remember. And while I was doing some remembering, I just so happened to remember a fact I learned just about a year ago. And that, my dear viewer, is the idea of the fairy census. Now, hold on. Before you get too excited about going toadstool house to tree to miniature mud hut and asking tiny little humanoids with wings to fill out a survey about how many people live in their homes, I need you to understand that that's not quite what it is. But before I even get into that, we really need to talk about what fairies are, because I have a bad feeling that a lot of people instantly think of Tinkerbell, and that's not quite what all the Fae folk are. So the sprite and the pixie are probably what you're thinking of when you hear the word fairy be told to you. But really, that's doing the Fae folk just a disservice. Pixies and sprites are small and humanoid, but not all Fae are built the same. In fact, a lot of the Fae are built different. The Fae themselves are believed to be supernatural entities or spirits that have some sort of close connection with nature, or at least the natural world, and a lot more of a connection of it than humans typically do. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and because of this diversity, it's quite possible that Fae exist all over the world. Different cultures have different meanings for spirits and things like that, but it's very possible that they could easily fit into what this European term of the Fae are. For now, we're going to stick to mostly a Eurocentric version of this, just to avoid possibly offending anyone, mostly because I don't really want to just assume that things are Fae when I haven't done enough research into them, but I'm pretty confident that all of these examples that I'm about to bring up would be considered Fae, or at least they are in their native lands throughout Europe. So our first example is the humble brownie, and no, I'm not talking about the baked good, but instead a goblin who comes in and sweeps up and does your chores for you in the middle of the night.
Ew, I like them! I like goblins!
That is, as long as you respect it and give it a well-deserved bowl of milk. That tends to be a running theme with the Fae, is that they really enjoy milk for whatever reason. Your guess is as good as mine. Anyways, brownies are helpful, but much like other Fae beings, they are very prone to mischief, a common theme that you're about to see. We've had recordings of them playing tricks on lazy workers and servants around the house. They share similar traits with lairs from Roman mythology. Both of them are household spirits that help around the house in many ways. And another version of this is the household Fae called Silky, not to be confused with the seal people called the Selkie, which are also a type of Fae. Now, this Silky is a female spirit that takes care of household chores, but it also protects the home from evil spirits. Typically, they take the form of a woman dressed in silk, thus the name, and they really do seem to enjoy helping out humans. Now, again, being Fae, they can get into mischief, and most often this manifests as messing around with lazy workers or unhelpful servants, and maybe causing the small mess, occasionally for fun. What else would you expect a cleaning spirit to do in terms of mischief, I guess? And while both of these are willing to go out of their way to help humanity with menial tasks, they are Fae, and they can easily become offended if you decide to be a jerk. And when you are a jerk, they can decide to revoke their help from your household. They can even turn spiteful and actively seek to punish those who have done them wrong. So, if you are lucky enough to have a sweeping goblin or a lady dressed in silk who does your chores for you, do your best not to piss them off. I don't understand why you would choose to do so. So if the brownies and the selkies aren't your style, let's consider the changeling. So changeling takes a form similar to, if not exact to, a baby. And the changeling is left in place of a baby that is stolen by other fae. Now, it differs from tale to tale if the changeling itself is a baby fae creature, or if it turns out to be a sickly or elder fae that just wants to be pampered by humans in the last days of its life. Now, for the fae, if that's the case, it's a great deal. Not only do you get a new human servant, but you don't have to put up with Grandpa and his trash takes about politics anymore. Though, for the human parents, the story doesn't have such a happy ending. It ends one of three ways. Either your baby mysteriously grows a beard, starts acting strange, playing music and talking in rhyme, before it gets weak and then it dies. It gets weak and then it dies. Or it just straight up vanishes into the woods because it really wasn't a baby, it was a fae, and it went back to live with the rest of its kind. Now, it's not just babies who get taken all the time. Sometimes the fae will take adults, typically women, and they'll just replace them with an enchanted log that takes on the glamour of the kidnapped person. Now, the log remains in the kidnapped person's bed, and they act sick and believe, or make people believe, rather, that they are getting sick and that they are dying, and that eventually they succumb to the air quotes sickness, and that just allows the family to bury the log as the body of the person who was kidnapped by the fae. Bogarts are another type of fae that aren't too pleasant to deal with. And no, please take the image of a ratty black robe coming out of a wardrobe and attacking Harry Potter and put it away, because that's not what a Bogart is. Thank you, J.K. Rowling, you actual hack. Now, unlike the changeling, Bogarts don't just kidnap people, and don't worry, we'll get to that in a minute. I want to get to their lesser offenses. They're actually closer in line with what we would consider a poltergeist in the study of ghosts. They'll make objects disappear, they'll turn milk sour, there's milk again, and just cause general mischief. That is, as long as you get a kinder Bogart haunting your house, that is. Bogarts will also yank off the sheets of your bed while you're sleeping. They'll touch you at night with their cold, clammy hands and maybe even yank on your ears. You can't even escape them because in some tellings of the stories, they chase people from house to house. You can't just up and move away from this one. And some of the more evil ones have even been attributed to missing children. Are you sensing patterns yet? So maybe mischief and tricks are a bit tame depending on what kind of fae you're dealing with. But at the very least, you can understand their motives. And these motives are what tend to be what we use to separate them from other folkloric monsters. The fae tend to have more understandable reasons for what they're doing compared to some of the more monstrous things, like take for example the Nucleavi. Some of the fae even have societal structures. They're almost like a big brother to humanity. And then you look at my example of the Nucleavi, these are more animalistic, demonic creatures, driven by hunger and hatred that we can't really understand. Now, you can question if I'm ascribing human motives to unknowable beings that just live out in the forest, and we'll never really know who's right in that case. But I believe this is part of the reason why we have the representations of the fae rather than just some sort of monsters that live out in the woods. This even comes back to how people hypothesize where fae come from. Some people believe them to be fallen angels, or even spirits of the dead. Some think that they're demonic entities, or even just the ghosts of lost civilizations that we would have never seen. What's interesting is that the fae tend to become this interesting foil to humanity. They're like us, they represent pieces of us, but they're not us, and in a completely different way than the flesh pedestrians that I talked about in last video are. Hell, we even categorize them into two different camps. We have the Seelie Court and the Unseelie Court. The Seelie Court are seen as the good fairies by humanity. These are your silkies, your brownies, your pixies, and your sprites. They will go out of their way to help humanity sometimes, though they're not afraid of causing mischief or minor problems. People even associate the heads of this court as Oberon and Titania. Sometimes referred to as the king and queen of fairies, Oberon and Titania have a pivotal role in the William Shakespeare play A Midsummer Night's Dream, in which they come to celebrate weddings with humanity, and end up causing a ton of mischief along the way, although not specifically trying to be malicious, I would say. I really haven't read the complete source material, so don't quote me on that, but it falls in line. The opposite of the Seelie Court is known as the Unseelie Court, as if you couldn't tell that from the naming conventions. These Fae range from generally unpleasant beings that cause a lot of mischief to straight up harmful, depending on what you're dealing with. Your Bogarts, your Boggles, and other unpleasant spirits tend to find their way into this category. Typically, they will ally themselves with witches and seek to cause problems for humanity, no matter where they're at. So, as you can see, experiences with the Fae range all over the map. And that's why, in my personal belief, Simon Young's modern-day fairy census has become a very important document for modern paranormal research. If one feels as though they've had an experience with the Fae, most of the time people keep it to themselves, because they're afraid of being called crazy by their friends and loved ones and the rest of society, basically. Somewhat of a remedy for this, the fairy census takes anonymous reports of interaction from Fae and fairy folk. These range from just seeing strange beings to having actual interactions with them. All these accounts are taken and read through, with the most possible being added to the census. The data from the latest census was collected between 2014 and 2018, and is currently 403 pages long and contain over 500 interactions from Fae around the world. So if your dream job is to go hut to hut, asking tiny little flying people what their population distribution looks like and all the other data collected in a census, I really hate to break it to you, but that's not what this is. For those of you who feel like you've had some sort of experience with the Fae, you should totally check the description box below, and you can find a link to thefairies.com, which is where the survey is collected. If you're of the mind to more read about the other experiences that other people have had, follow the same link and you'll be able to find the current 2014 to 2018 fairy census. Just click on the link, it's really not that hard. You made it this far in life. I believe in you. Last note before I leave off here, please don't flood the survey with joke or troll experiences. These people work hard to do this, and they really don't need random idiots from the internet making their work even harder. Granted, I guess having to defend your beliefs from notorious BIGMAC over here is a full-time job anyways. Hello there, my babies, ladies, and lads. It is time for yet another unscripted outro from ya boy. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. Thank you for watching. I tried to make this one shorter than my last one. The last one was like 20 minutes. I'm hoping this one is around 10-ish. I'm probably close to either 9, judging on how I timed myself earlier, but we'll see. I didn't want it nearly as long. But editing Brian will figure that part out. If you liked what you saw, please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. Give me some sort of feedback. More than just telling me that I mispronounced Wendigo wrong, even though I didn't pronounce it wrong, and people are dumb. That's just a lot of dead air. Whoops-a-daisy. This is why it takes me a little bit to get these videos out. A little bit longer than it really should, because they're not too hard. This has been about 2 or 3 days worth of work. I'm hoping to have it out before Christmas. I'll probably make some sort of visual joke if it's not out before Christmas. It just might be. I don't know. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So, thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. I'm not going to cut myself off like last time, because that joke is actually overdone and stupid. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you are watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.